40, 41, 42, 43. 43 steps. 43 steps between the first floor and the attic in the mansion. Have you ever been walking up a set of stairs when you find yourself kind of subconsciously yet consciously counting in your head the number of each step you take? Well, in the mansion part of the home, there's no lack of stairs to walk up. But once you finally reach that 43rd step, you come to the attic door. Again, I say attic because that's what we use it as, but it is really more of a third floor than anything. Once you cross the threshold of the attic doorway, you enter into a large common room, with smaller rooms branching out in every direction. 6 rooms to be exact, plus a narrow hallway leading to, well, I'll talk about that later. You can just feel the atmosphere change around you as you take your first steps inside. As you look around, it's very easy to overlook the significance of this part of the mansion. However, when it comes to the home, this is where its story really started. Those rooms that branch off to all sides, those were the original rooms for the first guests when this nursing home began operation back in 1898. These rooms saw many men come and go as they spent their later years in life here until they met their end. They also saw all of those original nurses and caregivers come and go, people who had made it their job to help and care for those guests until they moved on. It is this history and past which I believe creates the perfect environment for hauntings to take place. Oh yeah, and Mrs. L, who I talk about in the last episode on the second floor, she also still seems to claim this part of her home as well. Now, to the narrow hallway I mentioned earlier. This hallway leads us to the first curiosity of the attic. It's at the end of this hallway where the original nurses' station is located. This is where the nurses would do their charts and document the care they gave to the residents. Just looking at the room, you won't notice anything strange, but it's once you enter it that you literally get the chills. The thing is, the attic has no heat or no air conditioning. It's cold in the winter and warm, if not hot, in the summer, except for in the nurses' station. No matter the time of year, once you step into that room, the temperature seems to drop by about 20 degrees. Why this happens, I have no idea. But what I do know is that everyone who has stepped foot in that room always asks, why do you guys only leave the air conditioner on in that room up there? You can imagine their faces when we show them that there is no air conditioner or ventilation of any kind in there. Maybe there's a nurse or two still up there trying to catch up on their reports and charting. Maybe it was them who my coworker Jim heard rustling around one winter night as he was trying to get some sleep. It was 1:30 in the morning on a late winter night. Jim was sleeping on the couch in the administration break room on the second floor. Him and another maintenance man were working overtime for a snowstorm. He decided to take a little break and try to sneak a quick nap in while there was a small lull in the snowfall. As Jim was laying down trying to get comfortable, he was suddenly startled by some loud noises. He sat up on the couch looking around to see who it was that he heard walking around, but there was nobody. He then realized that the footsteps weren't coming from around him, but from above him. What is directly above the break room that Jim was in? That old nurse's station. It seems as though those footsteps Jim heard might just have been the nurses walking down the narrow hallway above to go and check on the residents. I know, I'm probably just jumping to unrealistic conclusions, right? Well, maybe. But I left out one important piece of information about the attic. That attic door I mentioned before, yeah, that's locked at all times. And the keys, well, the only people who have the keys to the attic are us wonderful maintenance men of the home. Nobody else, just us. And the only other maintenance man working and present at the home that night, he was still outside pushing snow with the dump truck when it happened. For some reason, snowstorms seem to come up a lot in the stories I've been told about the strange occurrences and experiences in and around the home, at least the mansion portion. And it was during another storm that Jim would actually see something going on in the attic. Again, it was early in the morning, around 2 o'clock, and Jim was plowing the snow. Here at the home, we split up the plowing sections into 2 parts, one for the pickup truck and one for the dump truck. The front loop and the back lot, or parking lot, respectively. For this storm, Jim was in the pickup plowing the loop. The other maintenance man was in the dump plowing the back lot. The loop is exactly what it sounds like, a large driveway that loops around the front of the facility. From the loop, you have perfect line of sight to the front of the mansion. Jim had just turned the truck around at the entrance and was heading back up towards the building when he looked up to the attic windows. He had to do a double take to make sure he wasn't just seeing things. He noticed that the lights in the room closest to the front of the building in the attic had its light on. Not necessarily anything too strange. Maybe one of the other maintenance guys was up there earlier in the day and had just forgotten to turn off the lights. Jim just let it go and just said to himself that he'll have to remember to go up there later and turn it off. He continued plowing and nearly forgot about it until his very next pass. He just happened to look back up and see the light was now turned off. Jim and the other maintenance man were again the only people on the property with the key to get up there. And again, they were both in different places when this event occurred. Maybe it was the nurses again doing their rounds. Or maybe it was Mrs. L up in the attic looking outside trying to figure out who was making so much noise at that time of the night. As much as snowstorms seem to pop up in people's stories, lights being messed with is another common reporting. As I said in the previous episode, most of my time at the home is spent outside doing landscaping. But in the late fall, winter, and early spring seasons, when there isn't any work that has to be done out there, myself and Jim have to find things to work on inside the building. So, one winter, we were given the task of painting the floor of the attic, as it had been a number of years since they were last touched up, and the wear and tear had begun to build up again. The first day we were painting, we swept all of the floors to make sure we wouldn't get any dust or debris on the paint rollers. We may not be professional painters, but we cared enough to make sure they wouldn't come out looking like shit. We also had to move a lot of things off the floor so we didn't miss any spots, and while we were doing this, we found an old lamp that had seen better days. But because we were curious, we decided to plug it into the wall to see if it would work. Surprisingly, it did actually work. We left it on in the common room and went on to start the actual painting in one of the back rooms. We got about halfway done with the room when Jim said he had to take a break and go to the bathroom. So while he went downstairs to relieve himself, I just sat down in a chair in the common room and scrolled through my phone while waiting for him to get back. He eventually returned, and all I heard was, "Are you messing with me?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He asked me if I turned the lamp off to try and play a joke on him or something. Now, I thought he was messing with me because I couldn't see the lamp from where I was sitting, but sure enough, when we walked over, the lamp was turned off. We figured the light bulb had just burned out, but we flipped the switch and a chill shot right down my spine when the light turned right back on. In an older structure like the mansion, it's not uncommon to hear some clicks and creaks around you just because it's so old. But now I can't help but wonder which one of the clicks or creaks that I heard that day wasn't coming from the mansion, but was actually coming from Mrs. L turning off the lamp that somebody left on in her attic. Obviously, at first, I had my suspicions about if it was Mrs. L who was messing with us, but just a week later, she decided to make that point very clear. While we were cleaning out the attic before we had started painting, we decided to plug in an old radio that we found to see if we could play some music on it while we were working. It actually worked quite well for its apparent age, and it made working up there a little bit better. However, on the cloudy and rainy days, there would be more static than on clear days, so we would usually just turn it down. It was now about a week after we had started painting the floor, and since that event with the lamp had occurred. We had finished painting all but one small rectangular section by the door. Jim and myself had just sat down to take a quick break and admire our above-average painting job. While we were sitting there, we somehow ended up back on the topic of what we had experienced with the lamp. We still couldn't understand how that type of switch could have just been flipped off without someone or something intentionally manipulating it. To be honest, at that point, I was ready to just write it off as just a false memory and that maybe we had switched it off ourselves at some point. As somewhat of a joke, and to move on from that topic of our conversation, I said to Jim, "I don't know, man. There's just some things that have happened to me here that makes me think that Mrs. L has it out for me or something." Just as I started my half-serious laugh, the old radio chimed into the conversation. The volume seemed to raise up a few notches on its own, and all I heard was a breathy female voice speak over top of the static, saying, "Yes." With that, we finished that last section and made our way back downstairs, as I wasn't too keen on seeing if she had anything else to say on the subject. Thank you for tuning back into this little series I have going on here on my channel. I hope you guys have found some type of entertainment value in this content that I've been making, and look forward to at least 3 or 4 more episodes. Working on writing them as I speak. But yeah, so if you enjoy it, you can leave a like. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. You can, I don't know, stop listening. I guess you could do that too. But that would be upsetting. Anyway, have a great day, night, whenever it is you're listening to this. And look forward to the following episodes.